What's good, everybody? It's the night before a match, so you know what that means. It's time for your favorite segment here on Defenders of the Bank, One More Sleep. And Philly, this is our last one more sleep for a little bit. Hopefully that means we can actually start to get some sleep as we head up to the Twin Cities in Minnesota to take on the Loons.
That's right. I can't wait to get many more sleeps. We've been burning. What are the stupid things I say? Burning the oil on both ends. That's what you like to poke fun at me for. And this is obvious, and that's also part of the reason why I'm wearing this All-Star kit, because there's going to be an All-Star game that gets played, and we're not going to get an opportunity to do a one more sleep for an LAFC game right around that time. That's not to say we won't have any festivities or anything fun and lined up for the All-Star game. Scarf and I have yet to talk about it, but I figured it was only appropriate to wear my Carlos Vela All-Star kit from the Orlando All-Star game. It's crazy because I was going through all the stuff that I have for MLS All-Star games since LAFC came into the league, Scarf.
Yeah.
And I got a Vela one for the inaugural season. I have this one. I have the LA one, but there's not a future one to be bought because Carlos Vela is not in this upcoming MLS All-Star game. But Denny Bouanga was there, voted by all of you, the millions
and millions
of Defenders of the Bank listeners and LAFC faithful. And also Ryan Hollingshead, who was selected by Wayne Rooney. So we're not an All-Star game. By the way, this color purple is very nice.
Yeah,
look, we're here to talk about Minnesota United. The Loons.
That's right. Minnesota United, 7-8-6 on the year, 10th in the West, one spot out of the playoffs, but with 3 points, they could jump as high as 6th because it is packed down there near the middle and bottom of the West. Look, Philly, this is a club that we have played 8 times in our club's history. 2 wins, 2 losses, 4 draws. Now, that might not sound so great, but we actually haven't lost to this team in this decade. We haven't lost to them since September 2nd, 2019. 2019, that's pre-COVID, man. That's like a whole world of time away. 4 draws and a win since against Minnesota. So, look, this is not a team that's going to strike fear in the hearts of anybody, but I have a feeling we're going to talk about their new Finnish sensation in a little bit before this one more sleep is over.
And to add to what you were saying as far as the statistics between head-to-head, another crazy stat for you, Scarf, is that LAFC has never won in Minnesota either. We've drawn, but we've never actually won a game on the road at Allianz, which, if you think about it, is kind of wild.
Yeah.
I think that's the only team who we've never beaten at home. Because obviously we beat Galaxy for the first time last season.
We've never beaten NYCFC, period. I know that.
Okay, then let's change that. Western Conference.
Okay.
Western Conference. We've never beaten. This is the only team that we have yet to beat at home. I'd have to go back and do the research on that. But I know for a fact that Minnesota United was never a team that we beat at home. And I couldn't tell you why. We've had really good games against them, Scarf.
Yeah.
But these last couple of outings that we've had with Minnesota United, 4 out of 5 of them ended up in draws anyway. We did manage to beat them once over the last 5 games, but this is a team that mainly draws the Loons.
Yeah, look, and this is a team that's not very good at home this season. By the way, Philly, we've also never beaten Chicago. That's not the Western Conference.
Western.
So right. We've never beaten Chicago. And I'm just going through the list real quick because this is fun for me. Is Nashville still? We've only beaten them once. I don't know. Anyways, the only teams we've played, by the way, just for fun, because you guys all care. The only teams that we've played and never beaten are Chicago, NYCFC, and Tigres. Everybody else, if we've played you, we've beaten you at least once. So that's kind of neat. But Philly, these guys not good at home. 2 wins, 2 losses, 5 draws on the season, but they come in playing solidly over their last 4 matches. Over their last 4, 10 goals in their 4 matches, 2 wins in those 4 matches. So for a team that only has 7 wins on the year, playing well in their last 4, they come off of their very own 3-0 win. Of course, we just authored one over St. Louis, and they just authored one over the Human Highlighters of Houston. 4-1 win against Portland as part of their last 4 games as well. So they're figuring out how to score, but they don't score a lot. 25 goals for, 29 goals against. Their -4 goal differential is meh at best. But Philly, these guys have some solid talent now built around one of the league's new superstars.
That's right. Finnish sensation, the all-time leading scorer on the Finnish national team, and a Norwich City legend. Norwich City legend. I have to really
I
wrap my
can't,
mind
Philly,
around that.
I can't. Whenever we say Norwich City,
You're
I'm
thinking about the
sorry.
big guy, right?
The only thing I think about is the largest human being I've ever seen in my entire life that actually fit the soccer jersey, the kit that he was wearing. It was made of tent and canvas, I believe, instead of regular. This guy. All right. So a little backstory real quick, and then we'll talk about Teemu Pukki. Philly and I, along with Panda and Nina, went to Premier League mornings at the Coliseum. It was one of the coolest things. We were there at 3 a.m. Philly was like, dude, we got to do this. And I was like, that's way too early. He said, no, you're an idiot. Go. And so I went, and he was right. It was amazing. It was like drizzly, like we were in London. It was just the worst weather for the start of it. And was it the first match of the day, right?
Yeah.
With Norwich City. And
they played Chelsea that morning.
Yeah, and they lost. They were down 4-0 with we weren't even done with our first beer yet, and they were down 4-0. All I remember is he wasn't leaning against a pole because he would have knocked the pole over. He was standing near a pole watching the Norwich City game. He had to have been, I'm not kidding, people. He had to have been over 7 feet tall. He weighed a redwood, and he was just so huge. I've never, if you are listening, if somehow this gets back to you, largest Norwich fan, largest soccer fan on the planet, please hit us up. We would love to know who you are and how you found a jersey that fits a bus.
5XLT kits cost normally $120 to $150. He might have had to spend like $4 and change or $350 for a kid of that size. Yes, he was a very, very big man.
Oh, man.
But anyway, we digress.
All right, we went off the rails.
Teemu Pukki has played 2 games for Minnesota United, subbing on, playing 34 minutes a couple of games ago, and then connecting already off of a nice dish by Emmanuel Reynoso to help Minnesota United score their second of 3 goals against the Houston Dynamo in their last encounter, which was the same night that we whooped St. Louis. And so he's going to add a lot of firepower and experience to this team. He's not a young buck, but he's also not a very old dude either. At the same time, he comes in highly regarded, and he's already made his impact on Minnesota United. But while he is the new bee's knees and the hot stuff in Minnesota, we also have to acknowledge the fact that Emmanuel Reynoso, arguably their best player, did not come on for the first 3 months of the season. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that he was suspended for failing to make his preseason roster camps. Now, there's a lot of information on there about why he didn't come through, and I will leave you all to do the homework on it. But with him in the lineup, him being an amazing facilitator, Teemu Pukki being having a knack for finding the back of the net, and of course Olongwane, who has just been their leading scorer all season long, I think this Minnesota United team has the personnel and the pieces that it needs to make a run, and at the very least cross over that threshold and become a playoff-bound team.
Yeah, if they can figure out their back line, they're going to be very, very good. We're talking about Dane St. Clair back there, he's been one of the up-and-coming keepers in Major League Soccer for the last few seasons, but all that has to go by the wayside now. He's the man there in Minnesota. Last year, lost his job to Tyler Miller for a little bit. I mean, he's really asserted himself a little better this year. He just came back from the Canadian men's national team. He's a player with a keeper, with 6 clean sheets on the year, and just one of those that they're waiting for him to take the next step. He's still super young in terms of a keeper. But, man, I go back to Teemu Pukki, the 2019 Finnish Footballer of the Year, a 2-time English Championship winner with Norwich City, the Player of the Year in the English Championship in 2018-19 when he led the entire English second division in goals with 29, a 2-time Scottish champ with Celtic, a 2-time Finnish champ with HJK Helsinki, a 1-time Danish Cup winner with former Bob Bradley coach side Brøndby. I mean, come on. This dude has done everything across the pond, except really anything in the Premier League. But
yeah, I was about to say not everything, sir.
No, but it's so much fun. If I had his career, like Scottish championships, Finnish championships, Danish Cups, Norwich City, dudes, and you mentioned it, 112 caps with Finland, second most all time, and those 38 goals. That would be the most in your country's history. It's so cool to be able to see that guy. His club career consists of 202 goals and 74 assists. I mean, no
Man
player in
can
Major League
contribute.
no player in Major League Soccer has ever scored 202 goals. I'm just saying. But you mentioned my guy that I'm excited to watch. He's not my player to watch, but I'm still excited to watch Bongo Kule Hlongwane, the 23-year-old South African with 8 goals in 23 matches. He's already made the MLS Team of the Week 4 times this season. He's a number 9 in every sense of the word. He stands in the box and says, I dare you to pass me the ball. Let's go. Reminds me a little bit of Josie Altidore, maybe a little bit of Adama Diomande, though not quite maybe as dynamic, even though he's only 23. And Philly, we got to talk about their manager, Adrian Heath. Anytime that a manager's stat and bio line consists of the following: had to sit out a match this season for yellow card accumulation, I am all about it, Adrian Heath. You live your best life in Minnesota.
He's such a fun person to listen to. He gets himself into trouble. He had a heck of a career as a player, Scarf. I mean, as we know, he featured quite substantially for Everton back in the 80s, spent some time at Manchester City before that oil money actually made them anything, spent some time at Burnley. I mean, his professional career alone is outstanding. 559 caps, 120 goals. It's awesome. And his managerial career has led him from the shores of England, where he was at Burnley and Sheffield United and Coventry City, to the Austin Aztecs, which...
Hold on. Sure... Spell Aztecs, please. Spell Aztecs.
A is in Alpha, Z is in Zulu, T is in Tango, E is in Echo, X is in X-ray. Aztecs.
That's great.
There you go. Couple years at Orlando City, and he's been at the helm of Minnesota United since 2017. So the man's got plenty of history and a lot of really cool things to talk about. A couple of yellow cards, sitting out a match, not necessarily something he's probably proud of, but he's passionate about his job. He's passionate about the sport he loves, and he's a fiery individual to listen to. And he's going to have to spit all the fire towards his team, because LAFC is riding a high right now after having beaten the number 1 team in the Western Conference. So Minnesota United's going to have their work cut out for them. You said it, not a really great record. They are below that playoff threshold line, and they would love to obviously get another W in the win column on the backs of Emmanuel Reynoso and Timu Pukki, but it's not going to be an easy feat.
Yeah, they're not going to have Robin Lod, who's been out with a knee injury for quite some time. They're hoping to get Franco Fragapane back. He's been out with a thigh injury. The way we have lower extremity, leg extremity issues or whatever it is that was on ours, they have thigh injuries. I don't know what's going on with everyone's thighs in Minnesota, but Franco Fragapane, Sangbin Jong, everyone seems to have a thigh issue. They are likely going to be getting back Kamar Lawrence from the Jamaican national team. Unfortunately, they fell in the Gold Cup as well as we did. So Kamar Lawrence, we'll see if he goes a full 90, but he is tough on the back line. Very, very good player. But Philly, a couple of names that we are familiar with too, of course. They used to have a guy by the name of Daniil Henry, but they cut him. And I'll give you a little bit more on the other guy that we know in just a little bit, but I think it's time. Want to get into it? Players to watch? Yep. Let's do it. I do get to go first on these things, according to how we have our slides organized. And Philly, you had mentioned this player did not play against St. Louis, so I think we're going to see a healthy dose of Timothy Tillman, and he is certainly my player to watch in this one. Timothy Tillman, I think, look, with Ilie Sanchez playing an incredible match, Kellen Acosta coming off a little bit, Jose Cifuentes, I think you're going to have to rotate a little bit here, as we played, obviously, on the 12th, so just 3 days later for another match. And look, I'm excited to see what we do with Timothy Tillman in the lineup. He can get this club moving forward offensively, passes through lines, those line-breaking passes that he does. He's really fun to watch. And I love him in our midfield. I think we're going to see a 90-minute performance, hopefully, from Timothy Tillman. That's why he's my player to watch. Hopefully, he doesn't come in the 86th minute like my LAFC player to watch last match. And the other one might be a surprise to some of you because, well, he's only been on Minnesota United for 2 games now. But Ismail Tajouri Shradi, that's right. The former LAFC man is now over in Minnesota after a stint in Greece, and he is healthy and playing well. You mentioned it, Philly. Emmanuel Reynoso to Timu Pukki was the second goal in the 3-0 win over Houston, and a bit of a garbage time goal, but they all count just the same. In the 86th minute of that match, 87th minute of that match was scored by Ismail Tajuri Shradi. So a player who might be getting his feet under him and one of those super sub roles. I'm going to throw something out, defenders. Between Kamar Lawrence, who might not play a full 90, maybe they sub him on late, Ismail Tajuri Shradi, who they may sub on late, they're looking at kind of a super sub role in this match. LAFC is going to have to be ready for some serious firepower coming onto this match in the last maybe 20, 30, 40 minutes or so. We'll see what Adrian Heath wants to do. And I think Ismail Tajuri Shradi is going to be a big part of that.
You have some interesting selections these past couple of one more sleeps. I'll give that to you. I'd love to see a big game or any kind of a game out of Timothy Tillman. I missed him in the last game, and I know our midfield missed him too. Ismail Tajuri Shradi didn't really get the amount of opportunities that he should have had at LAFC, but a lot of that is faulted on injury. He had one of the greatest goals we'll ever see a member of the Black and Gold score early on last season. But as a result of his injuries, he just couldn't stay healthy, and that's the story with him. So you're always going to have that chip on your shoulder when you go up against a team that, you feel that you would feel that didn't necessarily give you a fair run. So it's always interesting to see how people perform against their former clubs, and this is going to be another good example of that. Low-hanging fruit, you would think, for this game. I could have easily picked Pukki or Halungwane because those are formidable opponents, but I'm sticking with Emmanuel Reynoso. Minnesota United has played 21 games thus far. Emmanuel Reynoso's only been in 6 of them. As we mentioned, he was suspended for the first 3 months of the season for not reporting to preseason training camps. But in the 6 games that he's played, he's already contributed 3 goals and an assist in a very short body of work. This man is lethal. This man is devastating, and he's very, very good. He is that link up to the forwards, these really good forwards that Minnesota United have. So he's going to be a guy who's going to contribute in every single game in which Minnesota United is going to be competitive in. If he does his thing and he contributes, Minnesota United has a good run. If he doesn't have a great game, Minnesota United, I don't think can do what Adrian Heath wants them to do. And as far as LAFC is concerned, I like the saying, success breeds upon success. I've said it multiple times. Jose Cifuentes, in some ways, has shed the slump, you can say, that he's been playing in and out of. He had a really good game yesterday. He connected. He was man of the match. He scored a goal, and I think he's riding this game. He's going to be riding into Minnesota, with a little more confidence and a little more pep to his step. So you play one game really well, that gives you a good opportunity to play a really good game the next time around. So I'd like to keep my eyes on Sifu, see what he does against Minnesota United.
Jose Cifuentes quieting down the crowd,
including
at
us.
BMO Stadium. First one of these, he gave him a little shh, and then he plugged his ears a little bit. He hears us, not just us, but the royal us. But hey, maybe he's listening. Jose, thank you for listening. We appreciate you, buddy. So look, you're absolutely right. I think we might see a little chip on his shoulder. Keys to the match: number 1, defense travels. Right? Whether I loved what Kellen Acosta said in the press conference after the match last game. Defense wins championships. And I think what we saw from LAFC last match was our best team defensive effort of the season. I think Giorgio Chiellini was on fire, especially later in the match. He was actually more spry in the 85th minute, I think he was, than in the 25th minute. He was incredible to watch. Daniil Maldonado, for all the crap I gave Daniil Maldonado for going to ground and not staying on his feet, I mean, obviously Steve and the rest of the coaching staff got into Daniil as well. And there's nobody I think I'd rather listen to than Steve Cherundolo, the longtime backline man in the Bundesliga. He's been incredible. I think it's an absolute crime, a shame, a mockery, a travesty that Cheeky Palacios is not in the All-Star game. I think it is ridiculous. I just don't understand what this kid has to do to get seen by Major League Soccer. He is the best left back in the league right now, in my opinion. He's been incredible. And Ryan Hollingshead with another solid defensive effort. I think defense travels, and defense is going to travel up to the land of 10,000 lakes. And I think they're going to do exactly what they did against a much less lethal offensive opponent in Minnesota that they did to a much more lethal offensive opponent in St. Louis. And look, the bottom line is no Pookie party. Okay, they've already gotten to calling it a Pookie party up there. No. Look, he's very, 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 very good. But we have some guys who know how to play defense, and we just need to shut down Teemu Pukki. That's going to be tough with a player like Emmanuel Reynoso, who Philly highlighted already as his player to watch. But if we can shut down the Pookie party and we can bring our defense with us, Philly, I have a feeling we're in line for a very familiar scoreline for this season.
Okay. I mean, I've seen your score. I like your prediction better than mine.
Yeah, I don't know.
But we'll go over that momentarily. The Pookie party, look, he's played in 2 games. He's already contributed. I get it, but still would like to see a little bit more out of him before I could say that he's going to be the lethal weapon. To me, this team still is all about Emmanuel Reynoso, and that's what we need to do. We need to neutralize Reynoso. Look, over the course of 25 of the last 35 games, regular season games that Minnesota United has played, those have been wins when Emmanuel Reynoso has had some kind of goal contribution. Obviously, he has to be in the game for that. So take that statistic for what you will. But 25 out of 35 wins when Emmanuel Reynoso contributes. That's 71%. So when this guy gets involved in the game, whether it be by way of assist or by way of goal, there's a 71% chance thus far that Minnesota United can win. So if we can neutralize him, I think we just absolutely silence and suffocate their attack. Yeah, Pookie's great, but it's still too early to put all of your eggs in that basket. I would say Halongwane would be the one that you would need to watch out for, maybe control him. But it all comes from Emmanuel Reynoso, who, as I mentioned, in 6 games already has 4 goal contributions. And it's no surprise that they've started to play a lot better. So you neutralize him, you cut off the carotid artery that is the engine of Minnesota United.
Listen, what we know is 60% of the time it works every time. So if we can cut off Reynoso, we'll be fine. All right. Look, we steamrolled with this scoreline many a times early in our season. And last match, we got right back to it. The familiar 3-0 scoreline. Let's roll, baby. 3-0 one more time. We are going to end. It almost feels like, I know it's actually the All-Star break, but it's not really the All-Star break, right? Because it's actually the League's Cup break plus an All-Star game is happening in between all of this stuff. But it really does feel, I want to remind everybody, this is the 33rd match of the season for LAFC. 33 matches. That is a stupid amount of matches to play by July 15th. And yet we have won a solid handful of those 33 matches by this same scoreline of 3-0. That is how our Champions League run will be remembered, obviously, up until Leon. It was 3-0 after 3-0 after 3-0, it felt like, in that Champions League run. And it was incredible. And I think now that we've gotten another 3-0 under our belts with with St. Louis, that's what Minnesota just did that to Houston. I think we are going to be in line for another 3-0 scoreline in Minnesota. I love it. Philly, what do you think?
I like your score prediction, and that's what I hope is going to be the score prediction. But I'm going to be a little more cautious in terms of what
It's going to say 2-1. Watch. Watch.
One would think that I would choose 3-1. Here's the thing. I think history repeats itself, Scarf. I still don't think we walk out of Allianz with a win. Now, I'm not saying that we're not going to get a point. I firmly believe that we will. But for a reason that you had mentioned, this is going to be our 33rd game. I can tell you our players are very much looking forward to getting some time off. And so they're going to play a really big game. I'm not going to say they left it all out on the field against St. Louis just the other day, but I think they're going to give it their all. But Minnesota is playing better, and Minnesota has their pieces and their components that they want. I think it's going to be a very close game. I think it's going to be back-to-back, but I think it's going to end in a 2-2 draw, and I'd be fine with that. Going on the road at Allianz, a place where we've never won before, collecting another point, and that's great. As long as we could keep piling 3 points at home and a point on the road here and maybe 3 points at another game, that's what's going to help our ascent up the Western Conference. And who knows, maybe in some way, shape, or form, Cincinnati starts to run into a slump and we start to gain some ground. I still don't think we're going to walk out of Allianz, though, with the win. I prefer your scoring line, but I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic. That's what I'm doing.
Look, I can't give you grief for predicting a tie because I predicted a tie once and the match ended in a tie, which is why I needed to stop predicting ties because I was right when I said 1-1 and I figured I did that. That's my fault. I'm sorry. Hashtag blame Scarf. I get it.
You sound like Dan Aykroyd in Ghostbusters with that.
But this tie stuff, being happy with 1 point on the road, sure. Maybe if we were Minnesota, that's how we should feel. Sure. Maybe if we were any of the other clubs in the Western Conference, the Eastern Conference, CONCACAF, or the rest of the world. But no, we are the 2022 MLS Cup champion, the defending champion, Los Angeles Football Club, the reigning Supporters Shield winner. And there is no way that we should be satisfied. Steve Cherundolo says at every press conference, we go out there to try to win every single match. Whether you believe them or not about that in the Open Cup, that's up to you. But that being said, yes, this is game number 33. But this is a Minnesota team where, look, we get to check one more thing off of our history books. We finally will have beaten Minnesota in Minnesota. Beautiful Allianz Field, the land of 10,000 lakes, the cities that sent away the Minneapolis Lakers so that they could come build Showtime and make Inglewood the city of champions. They make very bad decisions up there in Minnesota. And while I love me some Kirby Puckett and I love me some old North Stars jerseys, I am going to love even more walking out of Allianz Field with 3 points, even though I'm not going and I won't actually be walking out.
Knowing you, you would probably get behind the wheel of a car and drive out there because you're that insane. You know, Spirit Airlines is a very economical way to travel, Scarf. It would save you money and time as opposed to driving from places like Los Angeles to Vancouver. Just saying. I like what you're saying, though. I prefer that. Not going to lie. I do think, though, we're walking out with a draw, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to save my trailblazing MLS Cup racing spiel for if we win tomorrow. Or whatever day that you're going to be, whatever day this is coming out on.
Yes, I like it. Look, that's fine. I am trying to get to Allianz. I'm trying to do it on my phone, and it says it can't find a way there right now. So I was just going to see, like, okay, let's see how long it takes to get to Allianz Field right now. But my computer says no. Well, there we go. 28 hours with no tolls, 1,926 miles. I'm not going to do it. Not going to.
I don't even know why you would consider it. I hate driving.
For the record, I was not considering it. I just wanted to see how long it would take. But it would. Okay, so here's the thing. I've never been to Utah. I've never been to Wyoming. I've never been to South Dakota. And I've never been to Minnesota. And if I wanted to, on the way back, I could dip down into Iowa, Nebraska, maybe even a little bit of Kansas. These are all states I've never been to. I've been to Colorado, so that doesn't count. But I don't know. It could be fun. I'm not going to do it. Either way, Philly, this has been one of our longer one more sleeps. I'm not going to do it.
We need to start shutting up, by the way. And I'm not just saying like you do a great job. I need to shut up too. We need to start cranking these out quicker. People have ADD in this day and age. We're talking longer than we should.
We can do whatever the hell we want. We're having fun. All right. With that being said, though, we do have a pretty sweet guitar riff that we play, right?
We do.
Sick.
Hasta la pasta. Bye.